Greetings, fellow humans. Katrina here. Quick disclaimer, I'm a professional, not your professional. Nothing I'm about to say should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. Disclaimer over. So today I thought I'd talk about what I don't know about decision paralysis. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's definitely something that contributed to making the decision about this particular episode because I was thinking there are so many options. I don't know what to choose. So, decision paralysis is basically just the lack of ability to decide. And in many cases, even if somebody does make a decision paralysis can exhaust the decision maker so much that they don't have any energy left to carry out the action itself. So there's three ways I'm going to mention. They're probably not all of the ways. I don't know all of the ways, but three ways to end decision paralysis. The first, pause and ask one good question. I was reading this Forbes article, and they mentioned that postponing the onset of the decision process by as little as 50 to 100 milliseconds enables the brain to focus attention on the most relevant information and block out irrelevant distractors. And this was actually a quote by Jack Grinband, a PhD who's an associate research scientist in the Taub Institute and an assistant professor of clinical radiology at Columbia University Medical Center. So he kind of knows what he's talking about. Another way to end decision paralysis is to insist on three options. So too often decisions get mistakenly framed in binary terms. Either we do this or we do that. Rarely does this reflect the realities of decisions. And I definitely did the this or that for trying to decide on today's episode. I was like, history or psychology? I have to do one or the other. And then I inserted another option of I could do decision paralysis, the thing that I'm currently experiencing. And that turned to work out quite well. Lastly, talk to 5 people. So decision making can really be a team sport. However, most people don't reach out beyond their own team to talk through the decisions before they make it. They wonder why their decision lacks innovative new thinking, or they only discover after the decision is made that another group has become adversely affected. So ask people, what do you think? Throw out some ideas, brainstorm, that kind of thing. So that's what I got on decision paralysis. Now it's time for the news. Not today's news, but century-old news. And this comes from the Washington Herald on Saturday, April 8th, 1922. And the very first thing that caught my attention on the front page is this big cartoon. And it depicts Russia as an animal. I don't know what kind. It just has 4 legs, a huge behind, and prickly looking hair. The title of the comic is A New Animal for the European Zoo. There are places like France, England, Italy, and German that are depicted as regular zoo animals, and a big group of people, all of them are looking at the Russian chasing this guy with a top hat. So it seems both now and back then that Russia hasn't looked at too favorably. The next big headline says, 6 lives lost when plane crashes in mist. So it was apparently this, quote, impenetrable fog that caused planes to collide. And the article actually mentions that it is the first catastrophe that they had had in the history of trans-channel commercial flights in which any passengers have lost their lives. On a different note, this next headline reads, Irish Countess reaches America. So there was this lady named the Countess, and I am so going to mispronounce her name, Markiewicz. I don't know how to really say it. It's complicated. It seems that she was fighting for the rights of Ireland to become a republic and get out from under control of the British Crown. And I think that it mentioned in there that she had been sentenced to death by Britain for some crime or another. So there's another story that's super sad, and it talks about heavy death rates among children. The culprit, glad you asked, thoughtlessness, apparently. So there was a bunch of drinking fountains in a bunch of schools that were not up to code for being sanitary, and they continued to be used anyway. They should have been shut off and replaced, and instead they were shut off for a period of time and then they were turned back on. And so they kept being used, and children died. That's super sad. And you know what a health officer said? He said that his department had no authority to act in the case of school buildings. Ugh, well, that's enough of that. Fast forward to today for just a bit to talk about Russia. Apparently, they are so cut off from the rest of the world right now that the Russians are unaware of some of the atrocities going on in Ukraine. They don't even know that civilians are being attacked. So hopefully the war ends sooner rather than later. And that's all I got for today. So if you want to support the show, click the button on the website and or Cash App Katrina Dragon. Remember, I appreciate each and every one of you simply for existing.